House will stand at ease until 10:15. The House will stand at ease until 10:15.
The hour of convening having arrived, all members of this house will please report to the house and take your seats. All members of the house will please report to their seats, and the clerk will ring the bell. All members will please take your seats. We're about to have the morning roll call. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. Doorkeepers will please close the doors and keep them closed. Well, good morning to you. Hope everybody's in a good mood this morning. We will begin our day today with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the gentleman from the 22nd House District, Representative Wes Cantrell. Representative Cantrell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. Since I'm not running for re-election, this introduction will be quite brief. I'm happy to introduce you today to Pastor Jeremy Morton. He is the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Woodstock, Georgia. He became our pastor about 3.5 years ago. He's doing a tremendous job. He's a great friend to me, and he's my boss. Let me tell you how great of a friend he is. I turned 60 a few months back and decided to celebrate my birthday by jumping out of an airplane with a parachute. And my pastor, being the man of faith that he is, joined me on that adventure. And we had a great time together in Trey Kelly's district that day. So with no further ado, I introduce you to Pastor Jeremy Morton.
Thank you, Wes. God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. Jesus told a story in Luke 18:9 to people, it says, that trusted in their righteousness and had a tendency to look down on others. The story basically went like this. It was Sunday morning at the First Baptist Church, and a silver-haired 81-year-old woman came shuffling down the center aisle. She had her cane in one hand and her Bible in the other. She took her seat in the pew where she sat every Sunday and had with perfect attendance for over 50 years. She knew every line to every stanza of every hymn. She gave her offering and she contributed to the building fund and the mission fund. She made certain that her prayer list was accurate and current. She even took notes and followed along with the sermon. But about midway through the sermon, she turned to a sister sitting on her pew and said, "What's become of our church? You see that man up in the choir loft? His son just entered rehab. And look at the usher at the door where I came through. I heard he's going through a divorce. And look at that girl over there. Shame on her. She's a teenager, not even married, and she's already pregnant. And have you heard about our deacon chairman? I heard he and his wife are having problems. And based on the way she's been dressed, I'm not surprised. But also in church that day, late and embarrassed, a young man came slinking in and he sat on the back row. He was embarrassed because he still had alcohol on his breath from the night before. He'd been in and out of gangs. He'd been in and out of prison. He had tattoos up and down both arms and on one side of his neck. He was embarrassed that he had multiple children by multiple women, and the girl he was living with, he wasn't married to her. But at the end of the sermon, the young man buried his head in his hands, and all he could say as his head pounded that pew in front of him, "Oh God, I'm sorry for my sins. What's become of me, oh God? Please forgive me in your mercy. Make me a new man." The silver-haired 81-year-old woman with her cane in the Bible, she left church, and the young man left church. They left at the same time that day, but only one went home right with God. Jesus says this in the final statement of the story about the Pharisee and the tax collector. He said, "Be mindful of this. Everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but all those who humble themselves at the proper time, God will exalt them." I don't know that any of us can fix anything in Georgia by ourselves. But if we'll humble ourselves and tell God how much we need Him and how sorry we are for all the things we've become apart from Him, today might be the day that He exalts His name and gives us and blesses us with what only He can give us. God in heaven, thank you for Luke 18:14. Today, would you help us to humble ourselves? We have nothing that's not an extension of your gracious, merciful love toward us. Everything we have is because of you. Forgive us of our pride. Forgive us of our smug self-righteousness. Especially forgive us when down deep in our hearts we look at other people when we don't even know a fraction of the story and we judge them. Oh God, forgive us, and thank you that you don't treat us like we've often treated you and other people. Clothe us with humility and mercy and a pure heart that can only come from Christ our Savior. We commit to you this day in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's say the pledge together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. God bless you.
Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Chair recognizes Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Information and Audits has read the journal of the previous legislative day and found it to be correct. And furthermore, Mr. Speaker, it ain't what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you think you know that just ain't so.
Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. Burns, on the 59th moves following be established as the order of business during the first part of the period unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions, first reading and reference of House bills and resolutions, second reading of bills and resolutions, reports of standing committees, third reading and passage of uncontested local bills and resolutions, first reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions, morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 862 by Representative Scott of the 76th, Bentley the 139th, Bernal the 77th, Schofield the 60th, and Davis the 87th. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 14 and Title 10, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to cemetery and funeral services.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1011 by Representative Hogan of the 179th, Jones the 47th, Mathiak the 73rd, Bonner the 72nd, Williams the 145th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 40 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to equipment and inspection of motor vehicles.
Motor vehicles.
House Bill 1012 by Representative Werkheiser, the 157th. Bill be titled an act to amend the act creating the Board of Commissioners of Tottenham County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1013 by Representative Ralston, the 7th, Jones the 25th, Oliver the 82nd, Hogan to the 179th, Cooper the 43rd, and others. A bill being titled an act to amend Titles 15, 20, 31, 33, 37, 45, and 49 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to courts, education, health, and insurance.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1014 by Representative Hagan of the 156th. Bill being titled an act to repeal an act to abolish the mode of compensating the sheriff of Montgomery County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1015 by Representative Hagan and the 156th. Bill be titled an act to create a Board of Elections and Registration for Montgomery County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1016 by Representative Hagan and the 156th. Bill be titled an act to amend the act creating the Board of Commissioners of Montgomery County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1017 by Representative Hagan and the 156th. The bill be titled an act to amend the act relating to the Montgomery County Board of Education.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1018 by Representative Parrish, the 158th. Bill be titled an act to amend the act creating the Board of Commissioners of Emmanuel County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1019 by Representative Parrish, the 158th. Bill be titled an act to amend the act incorporating the city of Swainsboro.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1020 by Representative Hogan of the 179th and Deloach, the 167th. Bill be titled an act to amend the act creating the Board of Commissioners of Glynn County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1021 by Representative Lumsden of the 12th, Williamson of the 115th, Hughley of the 136th, England of the 116th, and Carson of the 46th. Bill be titled an act to amend Code Section 3328.3 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to standard non-forfeiture provisions for individual deferred annuities.
Insurance.
House Bill 1022 by Representative Lumsden of the 12th, Williamson of the 115th, Hawkins of the 27th, Taylor of the 173rd, and Williams of the 148th. Bill be titled an act to amend Code Section 33.9.21 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to maintenance and filing fees.
Insurance.
House Bill 1023 by Representative Buckner, the 137th bill be titled, an act to amend an act reconstituting the Talbot County Board of Education.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1024 by Representative Buckner, the 137th bill be titled, an act to amend an act establishing the Board of Commissioners of Talbot County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1025 by Representative Hawkins, the 27th, Donahue, the 30th, Bar of the 103rd, bill be titled, an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Hall County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1026 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd and Powell of the 32nd, bill be titled, an act to amend an act providing for the Board of Education of Madison County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1027 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd and Powell of the 32nd, bill be titled, an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Madison County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1028 by Representative Earhart of the 36th, Carson the 46th, Dollar the 45th, Parsons the 44th, Seaball the 34th, and others, bill be titled, an act to amend an act providing for the election of members of the Board of Education of Cobb County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1029 by Representative Jones of the 47th and Cantrell of the 22nd, a bill be titled, an act to amend an act incorporating the city of Milton and Fulton County, Georgia.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1030 by Representative Jones of the 47th and Cantrell of the 22nd, a bill be titled, an act to amend an act incorporating the city of Milton and Fulton County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1031 by Representative Jones of the 47th and Cantrell of the 22nd, a bill be titled, an act to amend an act incorporating the city of Milton and Fulton County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1032 by Representative Corbett of the 174th, bill be titled, an act to amend an act creating a Board of Commissioners for Charlton County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1033 by Representative Saints of the 180th and Corbett of the 174th, bill be titled, an act to amend an act creating the Camden County Public Service Authority.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1034 by Representative Wiedauer of the 119th, Smiley 135th, Williamson of the 115th, Rose of the 120th, Gaines of the 117th, and others. Bill be titled, an act to amend Code Section 4883, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to exemptions from sales and use taxes.
Ways and means.
House Bill 1035 by Representative Clark of the 108th, Beverly 143rd, Smiley 135th, and Jackson the 64th. Bill be titled, an act to amend Chapter 4 of Title 1 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to holidays and observances.
Special rules.
House Bill 1036 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd. Bill be titled, an act to provide for compensation to the members of the Board of Education of Lincoln County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1037 by Representative Bodie of the 62nd, Jones of the 25th, McLean of the 100th, Hill of the 3rd, Schofield of the 60th, and others. Bill be titled, an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 8 of Title 34 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to administration of employment security.
Industry and labor.
House Bill 1038 by Representative Cooper of the 43rd, Jaspers of the 11th, Corbett of the 174th, Watson of the 172nd, and England of the 116th. Bill be titled, an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to imposition rate computation, exemptions, and credits from income taxes.
Ways and means.
House Bill 1039 by Representative Jackson, 128, Jaspers, the 11th, Watson, the 172nd, England, the 116th, Corbett, the 174th, and others. Bill be titled, an act to amend Code Section 48.7, 40.34 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to tax credits.
Ways and
House
means.
Bill 1040 by Representative Bentley, the 139th, Corbett, the 174th, Watson, the 172nd, Jaspers, the 11th, England, the 116th. Bill be titled, an act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to economic rehabilitation services.
Budget and fiscal affairs oversight.
House Bill 1041 by Representative Purple of the 155th, Jaspers the 11th, Watson the 172nd, England the 116th, Corbett the 174th, and others. Bill be titled, an act to amend Code Section 48.7, 29.2 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to tax credits for contributions to rural hospitals.
Ways and
House
means.
Bill 1042 by Representative Jaspers the 11th, England the 116th, Watson the 172nd, Corbett of the 174th, Barton of the 5th, and others. Bill be titled, an act to amend Chapter 34, Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to One Georgia Authority Act.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1043 by Representative Jaspers the 11th, Watson the 172nd, Corbett of the 174th, England the 116th, Barton the 5th, and others. Bill be titled, an act to amend Chapter 12 of Title 50, the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to commissions and other agencies.
Higher education.
House Bill 1044 by Representative Perkle, the 155th, Watson, the 172nd, England, the 116th, Jaspers, the 11th, Corbett, the 174th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 62 and Title 36, the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to development authorities.
Economic development and tourism.
House Bill 1045 by Representative Gaines, the 117th, Werkheiser, the 157th, Wiedauer, the 119th, Kirby, the 114th, and Mallow, the 163rd. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 9 and Title 34 of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to workers' compensation.
Industry and labor.
House Bill 1046 by Representative Scott of the 76th, Davis of the 87th, Schofield of the 60th, Hutchinson of the 107th, Mitchell of the 106th. Bill being titled an act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 35 of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to employment and training of peace officers.
Public safety and homeland security.
House Bill 1047 by Representative Scott of the 76th, Davis of the 87th, Schofield of the 60th, Mitchell of the 106th, McLeod of the 105th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 4, Title 42, the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to conditions of detention.
Public safety and homeland security.
House Bill 1048 by Representative Scott of the 76th, Thomas of the 39th, Carter of the 92nd, and Bernau of the 77th. Bill be titled an act to amend Code Section 152.2, the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to protocols for assessment of trauma in students.
Education.
House Bill 1049 by Representative LaHood of the 175th, Petrie of the 166th, Cooper of the 43rd, and Rich of the 97th. Bill being titled an act to amend Chapter 27 and Title 43 of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to nursing home administrators.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1050 by Representative Mitchell of the 106th, McLaurin of the 51st, Schofield of the 60th, Scott of the 76th, Beverly of the 143rd, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Article 3, Chapter 5 of Title 42, the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to conditions of detention.
Public safety and homeland security.
House Bill 1051 by Representative Mitchell, the 106th, Schofield, the 60th, Scott of the 76th, Beverly, the 143rd, Hutchinson, and the 107th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Article 3, Chapter 5 of Title 42, the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to conditions of detention generally.
Public safety and homeland security.
House Bill 1052 by Representative Mitchell of the 106th, Lim of the 99th, Hutchinson of the 107th, Wilson of the 80th, Drenner of the 85th. Bill being titled an act to amend Code Section 19.7.20 and Chapter 10 of Title 31, the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to circumstances of legitimacy.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1053 by Representative Stevens of the 164th, Carpenter of the 4th, Smith of the 70th, Nix of the 69th, Chokas of the 138th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to imposition rate computation exemptions and credits for state income tax.
Creative arts and entertainment with referral to Ways and Means.
House Bill 1054 by Representative Thomas, the 65th, Kennard of the 102nd, Cantrell of the 22nd, Mallow of the 163rd, and Lewis Ward of the 109th. Bill be titled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 1 of Title 37, the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to powers and duties of the Department of Behavioral Health.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1055 by Representative Ridley, the 6th, Corbett of the 174th, Barton of the 5th, and Anderson of the 10th. Bill be titled an act to amend Code Section 40.1.1 of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to definitions relative to motor vehicles and traffic.
Motor vehicles.
House Bill 1056 by Representative Hill of the 3rd, Gravely of the 67th, Lumsden of the 12th, Hitchens of the 161st, Bonner of the 72nd, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Title 47 of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to retirement and pensions.
Retirement.
House Bill 1057 by Representative Green of the 151st, Watson of the 172nd, Jaspers of the 11th, England of the 116th, Corbett of the 174th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 2, Title 37 of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions regarding administration of mental health developmental disability.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1058 by Representative Williamson of the 115th, Wiedauer of the 119th, Knight of the 130th, Wilkerson of the 38th, Hatchett of the 158th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Code Section 48.721 relating to income taxation of corporations.
Ways and Means,
House Bill 1059 by Representative Gamble of the 15th, Williams of the 148th, Lumsden of the 12th, Smith of the 18th, Taylor of the 173rd. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 24, Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to insurance generally.
Insurance,
House Resolution 623 by Representative Gilliard of the 162nd, Stevens to the 164th, and Anulowitz to the 42nd. A resolution creating a House Study Committee on Nancy Hanks passenger rail line from Savannah to Atlanta.
Transportation,
House Resolution 624 by Representative Gilliard of the 162nd, Stevens to the 164th, and Oliver the 82nd. A resolution recognizing Judge Willie J. Lovett Jr. and dedicating a building in his memory.
State Properties,
House Resolution 625 by Representative Gilliard of the 162nd, Stevens to the 164th, and Williams to the 168th. A resolution encouraged the state of Georgia to establish a Georgia Gula Geechee Heritage Society.
Special Rules,
House Resolution 626 by Representative Holcomb of the 81st, Werkheiser of the 157th, and Watson of the 172nd. A resolution compensating Kerry Robinson.
Appropriations,
House Resolution 627 by Representative Yurda of the 152nd, Jaspers of the 11th, Watson of the 172nd, Corbett of the 174th, England of the 116th, and others. A resolution creating the House Study Committee on Bureaucratic Hindrances to Businesses.
Small Business Development,
House Resolution 628 by Representative Mitchell of the 106th, Hutchinson 107th, Davis of the 87th, and Holly of the 111th. A resolution honoring the life of SPC Eteen J. Murray and dedicating an intersection in his memory.
Transportation,
House Resolution 629 by Representative Taylor of the 173rd, Jaspers of the 11th, England of the 116th, Watson of the 172nd, Corbett of the 174th, and others. A resolution creating the House State Health Benefit Plan Study Committee.
Health and Human Services,
House Resolution 630 by Representative Taylor of the 173rd, Watson of the 172nd, Jaspers of the 11th, Corbett of the 174th, England of the 116th, and others. A resolution creating the Joint Study Committee for Consolidation of County Governments and School Systems.
Governmental Affairs,
Senate Bill 347 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, a bill being titled an act to amend an act reconstituting the Board of Commissioners of White County.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 980 by Representative Green of the 151st, a bill to amend an act reconstituting the Board of Education of Early County. House Bill 981 by Representative Anderson of the 10th and Irwin of the 28th, a bill to authorize the City of Cornelia to exercise all redevelopment and other powers under the Redevelopment Powers Law. House Bill 982 by Representative Green of the 151st, a bill to amend an act to provide education district for the Calhoun County Board of Education. House Bill 983 by Representative Campbell of the 171st, a bill to amend an act providing a Board of Commissioners for Mitchell County. House Bill 984 by Representative Jones of the 53rd, Scott of the 76th, Davis of the 87th, Gilligan of the 24th, a bill relating to general provisions regarding holidays and observances. House Bill 985 by Representative Williams of the 168th and Stevens of the 164th, a bill to amend an act creating a Board of Commissioners of Liberty County. House Bill 986 by Representative Collins of the 68th, Nix of the 69th, Smith of the 70th, Smith of the 18th, a bill to amend an act relating to Board of Education and School Superintendent of Carroll County School District. House Bill 987 by Representative Buckner of the 137th and Jenkins of the 132nd, a bill to amend an act reconstituting the Meriwether County Board of Education. House Bill 988 by Representative Gallett of the 19th, Mumtahan of the 17th, Gravely of the 67th, Alexander of the 66th, Kelly of the 16th, and others, a bill to provide a homestead exemption from Paulding County ad valorem taxes. House Bill 989 by Representative Smith of the 18th and Kelly of the 16th, a bill to amend an act to provide for the election of members of the Board of Education of Haralson County. House Bill 990 by Representative Williams of the 145th, a bill to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Baldwin County. House Bill 991 by Representative Bruce of the 61st, Couch of the 50th, Bazemore of the 63rd, Thomas of the 65th, Evans of the 57th, and others, a bill to amend an act providing for the number of members and for certain election of members of the Board of Education of Fulton County. House Bill 992 by Representative Williams of the 145th, Hitchens of the 161st, Gamble of the 15th, Powell of the 32nd, Gunter of the 8th, a bill relating to imposition rate computation exemptions and credits for state income tax. House Bill 993 by Representative Williams of the 145th, Hitchens of the 161st, Clark of the 147th, Powell of the 32nd, and Gunter of the 8th, the bill relating to attempted murder or threatening of witnesses. House Bill 994 by Representative Wilson of the 80th, Cannon of the 58th, Allen of the 40th, Jackson of the 64th, Douglas of the 78th, the bill relating to elevators, dumbwaiters, escalators, man lifts, and moving walks. House Bill 995 by Representative Bodie of the 62nd, Lewis Ward of the 109th, Nelson of the 125th, Holly of the 111th, Bernal of the 77th, and others, a bill relating to labor and industrial relations. House Bill 996 by Representative Carpenter of the 4th, Scoggins of the 14th, Hill of the 3rd, Smith of the 18th, Jaspers of the 11th, a bill relating to professions and businesses. House Bill 997 by Representative Watson of the 172nd, England of the 116th, Burns of the 159th, Buckner of the 137th, Hatchett of the 150th, and others, a bill relating to property tax exemptions. House Bill 998 by Representative Carpenter of the 4th, Montana of the 17th, Fry of the 118th, Collins of the 68th, and Gullett of the 19th, a bill relating to ticket brokers. House Bill 999 by Representative Cantrell of the 22nd, Glanson of the 75th, Moore of the 90th, Clark of the 147th, Bentley of the 139th, and others, a bill relating to education. House Bill 1000 by Representative Gunter of the 8th, Rich of the 97th, Scoggins of the 14th, Thomas of the 21st, Williams of the 145th, a bill relating to control of rabies. House Bill 1001 by Representative Smith of the 18th, Gunter of the 8th, and Scoggins of the 14th, a bill relating to definitions for prepaid legal service plans regulated under insurance. House Bill 1002 by Representative Smith of the 18th, Gamble of the 15th, Williams of the 168th, Scoggins of the 14th, McDonald of the 26th, and others, a bill relating to state stimulus. House Bill 1003 by Representative Allen of the 40th, Wilson of the 80th, a bill relating to health insurance plans. House Bill 1004 by Representative Maynard of the 56th, Collins of the 68th, Smith of the 133rd, and Dukes of the 154th, a bill relating to education. House Bill 1005 by Representative Maynard of the 56th, Dempsey of the 13th, Camp of the 131st, Lim of the 99th, Mitchell of the 106th, a bill relating to student health in elementary and secondary education. House Bill 1006 by Representative Dickey of the 140th, a bill to amend an act relating to the Board of Education of Crawford County. House Bill 1007 by Representative Dickey of the 140th, a bill to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Crawford County. House Bill 1008 by Representative Hawkins of the 27th, Newton of the 123rd, Dempsey of the 13th, Hatchett of the 150th, Lott of the 122nd, and others, a bill relating to higher education savings plan in Georgia achieving a better life experience. House Bill 1009 by Representative Jones of the 25th, a bill relating to motor vehicles and traffic. House Bill 1010 by Representative Gaines of the 117th, Ridauer of the 119th, Fry of the 118th, a bill relating to public officers and employees. House Resolution 620 by Representative Houston of the 170th, resolution honoring the life of Mr. Charlie D. Rogers and dedicating an intersection in his memory. House Resolution 621 by Representative Houston of the 170th, a resolution honoring the life of Lieutenant Hugh L. Moore and dedicating a bridge in his memory. House Resolution 622 by Representative Corbett of the 174th, Hatchett of the 150th, Stevens of the 164th, Sains of the 180th, and Ridley of the 6th. Resolution recognizing February 8th, 2022 as Dyslexia Day at the State Capitol and urging schools, local education agencies, and the State Educational Agency to address the profound educational impact of dyslexia. 3 second readers.
Outstanding.
Reports of standing committees, the clerk will read.
Representative Newton of the 123rd District, Chairman on the Special Committee Access to Quality Health Care, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your committee on special access to quality health care has had on consideration the following bills of the House. Instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 867, due pass by committee substitute, respectfully submitted Representative Newton of the 123rd District, Chairman. Representative Darlene Taylor, 173rd District Chairman of the Committee on Governmental Affairs, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Governmental Affairs has had on consideration the following bills of the House and instructed me to report same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 886, due pass by committee substitute. House Bill 907, due pass by committee substitute, respectfully submitted Representative Darlene Taylor, 173rd District Chairman. Representative Bill Werkheiser, the 157th District Chairman of the Committee on Industry and Labor, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Industry and Labor has had under consideration the following bill of the House and instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 389, due pass by committee substitute, respectfully submitted Representative Bill Werkheiser, the 157th District Chairman. Representative Jan Tankers of the 160th District, Chairman of the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Local, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Local is under consideration the following bills of the House and the Senate, and instructed me to report same back to the House following recommendations. House Bill 890 do pass. House Bill 942 do pass. House Bill 943 do pass. House Bill 944 do pass. House Bill 947 do pass. House Bill 948 do pass. House Bill 949 do pass. House Bill 950 do pass. House Bill 951 do pass. House Bill 952 do pass. House Bill 953 do pass. House Bill 954 do pass. House Bill 955 do pass. House Bill 956 do pass. House Bill 957 do pass. House Bill 958 do pass. House Bill 959 do pass. Senate Bill 335 do pass. Senate Bill 336 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Jan Tankers of the 160th District, Chairman. Representative James Burchett of the 176th District, Chairman of the Committee on Judiciary Non-Civil, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Judiciary Non-Civil set on consideration the following bill of the House and instructed me to report same back to the House with the following recommendation. House Bill 478 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative James Burchett of the 176th District, Chairman. Representative Carson of the 46th District, Chairman of the Committee on Retirement, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Retirement has had into consideration the following bill of the House and instructed me to report same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 385 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Carson of the 46th District, Chairman. Representative Jan Tankers of the 160th District, Chairman of the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Local, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Local is under consideration the following bill of the House and instructed me to report same back to the House the following recommendations. House Bill 81 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Jan Tankers of the 160th District, Chairman. That completes the reading of the reports of standing committees.
Okay, we're about to go on to the local calendar. House will come to order. House will come to order. We've got some business to attend to. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills. If there is no objection, we will vote on the local calendar as a whole with a recorded vote. Hearing none, it is so ordered. What purpose does Representative Fry rise?
I object.
Okay, you have a motion.
Make a motion to move House Bill 890 off the local calendar to be voted on separately.
Okay, Representative Fry has moved that House Bill 890 be removed from the local calendar and voted on separately. Is that your motion?
Sir.
Okay. All right. Is there objection to his motion? There is objection. Does the gentleman move?
So move.
Okay, all those in favor of Representative Fry's motion to remove House Bill 890 from the calendar and vote on it separately will vote aye. Those opposed to his motion will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines.
Hey, Carrie, Representative Dukes is.
Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. on the gentleman's motion. The ayes are 63. The nays are 98, and the motion has failed. The clerk will read the local calendar. It will include, as the clerk will point out, a supplemental calendar consisting of one bill, House Bill 881, pertaining to Walton County. It will include that bill unless otherwise ruled. Mr. Clerk, would you please read the local calendar?
House Bill 890 by Representative Gaines, the 117th, Athens, Clark County. House Bill 942 by Representative Wade of the 9th, Dawson County. House Bill 943 by Representative Wade of the 9th, Dawson County. House Bill 944 by Representative Holmes of the 129th, Jasper County. House Bill 947 by Representative Holmes of the 129th, Jasper County. House Bill 948 by Representative Rhodes of the 120th, Wilkes County. House Bill 949 by Representative Rhodes of the 120th, Oglethorpe County. House Bill 950 by Representative Rhodes of the 120th, Oglethorpe County. House Bill 951 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd, Elbert County. House Bill 952 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd, Elbert County. House Bill 953 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd, Lincoln County. House Bill 954 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd, Lincoln County. House Bill 955 by Representative Williams of the 148th, Crisp County. House Bill 956 by Representative Williams of the 148th, Crisp County. House Bill 957 by Representative Parrish, the 158th, Candler County. House Bill 958 by Representative Parrish, the 158th, Candler County. House Bill 959 by Representative Smith, the 133rd, Harris County. Senate Bill 335 by Senator Gooch, the 51st, Lumpkin County. Senate Bill 336 by Senator Walker of the 20th, Bleckley County. Supplemental calendar, House Bill 881 by substitute by Representative Williamson of the 115th, Walton County.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local calendar? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bills? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall these bills now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bills on the local calendar will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Fry rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true, Mr. Speaker, that the practice of targeting seated elected officials started during Reconstruction and still lasts to this day? Isn't it true?
Well, I know a little history. I don't know that part. The gentleman so states. I will accept his word. I'm more familiar with targeting on the football field. Not to make light of that, but what purpose does Representative McLaurin rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, don't you think, given the colors of the voting options, the best way to support UGA on this vote is to vote red?
Representative, you make a compelling case. You might even get me to vote red, and I can't vote on this one. Okay, has all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of the bills on the local calendar. The ayes are 124. The nays are 39. These bills, having received the requisite constitutional majority, are therefore passed. What purpose does Chairman Tankersley rise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to make a motion.
State your motion.
I move that we immediately transmit the local calendar as well as the supplemental calendar to the Senate.
Chairman Tankersley has moved that the bills that we just passed on the local calendar be immediately transmitted to the other chamber of the legislature. Is there objection to her motion? Is there objection? The chair hears none, and they have been immediately transmitted. We're going on now to morning orders. Morning orders. Okay, we have a number of morning orders. I really hate to cut these short, but if everybody wants to be heard, that's the way it's got to be. So morning orders will be limited to 1 minute, after which time the mic is turned off. The only way we can enforce that. 1 minute each for morning orders. The chair recognizes Representatives Bentley, Chairman Chokus, Dean Smyrie, and Representative Al Williams on a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I ask that you please join me in a moment of silence. Join Chairman Chokus and myself for a moment of silence in memory of the life and legacy of Larry Smith, the mayor of Montezuma, Georgia, the home of the late State Representative Lenmore James. Mayor Smith passed away this weekend, and we just want to take a moment to recognize his life and legacy. Amen. And thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, members of the House.
Chair recognizes Representative Buckner for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a rough week and a half in the Columbus and the Valley area. We have lost a number of leaders. We lost, as you know, Talbot County Probate Judge Sherelle Terry, DOT Board Member Russ Carricker, former Commanding General of Fort Benning, General Samuel Wetzel, excellent surgeon, compassionate and kind community leader, Dr. David Varner, and a volunteer extraordinaire, fun-loving, kind, and generous centurion, Miss Effie Bowers. At her 100th birthday on November the 19th, she said 99 and a half's just not good enough, go 400. If any of you would like to sign these resolutions, please see me. And now if we could honor all of these fine people with a moment of silent prayer, thanking God for them being in our lives and for their families. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Sam Watson for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just need to let the record show that I love my wife, Emily Watson. Happy anniversary tomorrow, 16 years. Thank you, love you and the girls, and thank you what you do to support our family, especially while I'm away. Love you, bye.
Smart man. Chair recognizes Representative Hutchinson for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I bring you 8-year-old Brody. Brody is a loving and energetic child who likes to run, watch Paw Patrol, and every other cartoon he can find. He enjoys playing and watching football, basketball, and soccer. At school, where he gets along well with other kids, he enjoys recess and learning about math. And while I'm up here, as a point of personal order, my anniversary of 25 years was in November. So since we'll never be here then, happy anniversary, Eddie Hutchison.
Chair recognizes Representative Park for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to question the integrity of the proceedings of this House per House Rule 40.3. The actions taken by the majority to usurp local control and allow politicians from around the state to draw local maps for Gwinnett demonstrate incredible disrespect to the nearly 1 million residents of Gwinnett County whom I serve and fight for. It is my hope that this body upholds the principle of local control, of home rule enshrined in our state constitution. During the last redistricting cycle, all local redistricting was treated as local redistricting, as local legislation. What's changed? Why these targeted exceptions that undermine the integrity of this House? I urge the members of this body to do the right thing, respect the will of the people, respect local control, and pass Gwinnett's maps. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative, I think it's possible to disagree without questioning the integrity of this body. And if you feel otherwise, then we'll talk about that. I don't question the integrity of any member, regardless of party, regardless of issue. Chair recognizes Representative McLean for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, I've been in this House 9 years, and I live in Gwinnett County for 45 years. And what am I saying is what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And what we did on day 5 was wrong as two left shoes. Gwinnett had an open and transparent and inclusive process. We had 5 open houses, 2 public hearings. We made sure Gwinnett voices were heard. The people of Gwinnett supported this map. The chamber supported this map. We gave the delegation 3 weeks to come and compromise or do whatever they wanted to do with this map. There's over 1 million people that live in Gwinnett County. And what we've got to do is make sure those people are heard, those voices are heard in Gwinnett County. The people have the power, and we've got to realize that. And November is coming, and I can assure you this much, I will make sure that the people of Gwinnett County know.
Chair recognizes Representative Jasmine Clark for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In this body, we work by a set of rules that are meant to maintain order and exemplify respect for each member and their respective constituencies. I know we all get a rule book at the beginning of session, but in case you haven't read it or you've forgotten what it says, I want to draw attention to Rule 18. Part 1 compels the delegations to submit rules about signatures required to pass local bills to the Chair of Intergovernmental Coordination. Part 2 says as long as a delegation meets those requirements, their bills will be favorably reported. Part 3 states that bills that have met these requirements cannot be changed. These are the rules which we all agree to. So if that is the case, then why is one of the most diverse delegations in this body, representing the most diverse county in this state, being subjected to a different set of rules than what we have all agreed to for local legislation? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Recognizes Representative Walensky for a morning order.
Thank you, Speaker. One of the reasons we all serve is our families. Family is a top priority of Georgians. We work to support and strengthen Georgia families. But today I must share that there are branches of my family tree that do not exist anymore. I gave a similar speech a couple years ago, but many are new to this body, so it's a little different. But I want you all to know that my great-grandmother had 10 brothers and sisters. I should have 50 to 100 more cousins, but 7 of those 11 siblings and 42 of my relatives were murdered in the Holocaust. 42. My great-aunt Rose survived the Auschwitz death camp, so did my great-uncle Martin. I will never forget when I was about 8 years old in my Granduncle Martin's apartment. I saw him go for a book, and I saw the number on his arm. I was shocked to see a tattoo on his arm, a tattoo that reduced him from a human to just a number, a tattoo that was imprinted on his body and soul in that concentration camp. Today's International Holocaust Remembrance Day, the day set aside around the world to remember the Holocaust. It's not about the guilt or sadness or rehashing the past. It's a day to think about how and why the Holocaust happened. The story is not just about my family and the victims. We retell this story because it is an everlasting important reminder that genocides do not happen in countries that have democracies. They happen when democracies fail. It is a reminder that the Holocaust occurred because people, regular civilians, and leaders made choices that allowed it to happen. They did not live up to their responsibilities to protect others, particularly those that were different than themselves. It's a reminder that as leaders, as citizens, and just as humans, we have a wide circle of responsibility to others in our democracy. We must protect and nurture our democracy and each other. We must stand up for those who deserve our care and protection. The story of the Holocaust is a reminder of the 6 million Jewish people and millions of others who were killed because of their ethnicity, political beliefs, sexual orientation, or religion. And this was possible because of the silence or complicity of ordinary people. Alone, Adolf Hitler was not responsible for the Holocaust. It could not have happened without the choices and silence made by individuals, organizations, and government. It occurred because people did not speak out or act against prejudice and hate. It occurred because people did not protect their fellow citizens and their democracy. We must continue to teach the story of the Holocaust. We must speak out when confronted with racism, anti-Semitism, and hate. We must remember that every word has consequences, and just as important, every silence does as well. This session let us work in harmony to protect each other, protect our democracy, teach important historical lessons, and let us fight every kind of hate. And let's do it together. And let's have one moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you, Speaker. I yield the well.
That completes our morning orders. We're now going on to the rules calendar. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 841.
House Bill 841 by Representative Dollar, the 45th, Cooper, the 43rd, Sessler, the 35th, to be entitled an act to incorporate the city of East Cobb. This bill, having referred to the Committee on Governmental Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Matt Dollar to present the bill.
Thank you, Speaker. House Bill 841 is a simple measure that will allow for a referendum in part of unincorporated Cobb County to allow for those citizens to decide if they want to incorporate. That's it. It's a very simple proposition that we have before us. This is one of 4 bills that we currently have to incorporate cities in Cobb County. The others being Lost Mountain, Mableton, and Vinings. I'm a proud co-sponsor of all 3 of those other bills, and hope that they come to the floor very soon. The proposed city has met all the legal requirements as well as all the requirements set forth in the House Governmental Affairs Committee. The feasibility study was conducted by Georgia State and found it to be feasible, and in fact that the city could run a surplus. All this without raising taxes. The bill you have before you is really a product of 4 years of community involvement, community engagement, community feedback. It's been a true community effort. The map, the governance structure, the services, everything about it really has changed significantly from when this was first introduced 4 years ago. And that's been based 100% on community engagement and feedback that we've gotten throughout this process. The proposed city has just under 60,000 people, and as you can see from the maps in front of you, is very compact, very concise, and really represents a true community of interest. This is the area I've called home my entire life, and I can say that this is something that's that's really been, I think, lacking in the community. The services laid out in the bill are zoning code enforcement, police and fire, parks and rec, and road maintenance. The governance structure, and I really want to focus on this area specifically because there's been change to this since we first passed it out of committee at the beginning of the year. After that happened, it got kind of a bump in attention back home, and we received a lot of feedback, and the organizers asked me if I could change it, and the answer was yes, we could pass it the way it was. And send it over to the Senate, and as we do with a lot of things, and address it there. But I really wanted to try to keep this as cohesive as possible as it moved through the process. So I asked Chairman Smith to pull it out of rules, send it back to committee. Chairman Taylor was very gracious to accommodate this change, and the way it stands now is there are 6 council members in the city. The city is comprised of 3 districts, each with 2 posts. And the reason it's done this way is to ensure that there is representation really from across the city. All members are elected citywide, and there's 4-year staggered terms. The bill also calls for an elected mayor to the city. Again, 4-year term, and also elected citywide. The mayor would vote in case of a tie, but would not have veto power. And again, also has a limit of 3 years. This will be a city manager system. The referendum, the bill calls for the referendum to be in May, and there's been, I think there's been a lot of questions about that. And the logic behind doing the May referendum, and I think that some of the other cityhood initiatives share this as well. If we have it in May, then that would allow for the city to have its elections for council and mayor in November. That this avoids a special election next March, and also really gets the people who are going to be involved in running the city. It helps them get up to speed before the city even takes effect. So I feel it's a very logical and good way to do it. Now let me tell you what the bill is not. And I want to direct these comments especially to my friends in the back of the chamber, because a lot of the understanding about the bill is not just in here, but it's really running back home, and there's people actively spreading a lot of misinformation to try to confuse the issue. I know that that's hard to believe, but it's happening. So a couple of things I want to go over about what this bill is not is that it is not another layer of government. I think my history and my background on that is fairly well established. What this is doing is this is shifting very specific services to a level of government that is closer to the people. It will not raise taxes. In fact, the study suggests that the city could run at a surplus. So I want that to be crystal clear, that this is not another layer. It does not increase the size of government. It does not affect schools. I think it's safe to claim that the majority of people that move into my community move there for the schools. I represent Walton and Pope High Schools, and this would have zero effect on schools. There are people that are saying that this would have an impact. It would not impact Cobb County schools at all. It will not impact where your kid goes to school. It just flatly has nothing to do with schools. Likewise, Cobb County seniors enjoy a property tax exemption on the school portion of their taxes. So if you're 62 and over in Cobb County, you can exempt that portion of your property tax. This in kind would have no effect on that as well, and I want that to be crystal clear. And really, Mr. Speaker, that's all my comments. That is the bill. I'm happy to take questions.
You do have a question. Do you yield?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Bennett to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Under this form of election running, with candidates running citywide, how will this ensure representation from all the posts that are outlined within the city?
I'm sorry, you're a little muffled. I'm having trouble.
Can you hear me? How will the elections to be elected citywide, how will that ensure representation for each of the 3 posts that you've outlined?
Okay, so for city council, you must reside in one of the 3 districts, and each one has 2 posts. And the reason for a citywide election is we wanted to make sure that the council was accountable to the whole city, because it's not a very large geographic area, but currently in the city there's a megachurch and townhome development being considered that will have an impact on the entire area. And so we wanted things like that to, for just what I said, for the council to be accountable to the entire city.
Mr. Speaker, may I follow up with just a clarification?
If the gentleman yields.
If the gentleman yields?
I do.
So based on your explanation, the candidates must reside within the district that they're running for?
Yes, ma'am, and each district has 2 posts.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And I should say that I can get into the geography of the city, but basically Johnson's Ferry Road, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, have at least heard of, it runs down the spine of the city from north to south, and each district has about an equal amount of that corridor.
Do you further yield?
Mr. Speaker, I will yield because I think that in due respect, if it's general questions, because I do want to stay and clear up any questions that there are. So I will yield for another question.
You want to yield for further questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Chair recognizes Representative Jasmine Clark to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned when you were describing the bill that this is not another layer of government. So I'm just curious, will the people that live within these city boundaries have to pay city taxes?
Yes, they will, but those will be taxes. It's not like we're creating new taxes. Just for those services that the city's taking over, instead of those taxes, instead of them going to the county to provide those taxes, they will now go to the city to provide those taxes. So, and likewise, they'll still be Cobb Countyans. They'll still pay Cobb County taxes as well.
So does the gentleman further yield?
Yes, ma'am.
So to clarify, the people who live in this city will have to pay county and city taxes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
It's as I explained, it's shifting from one to the other. I will reiterate that the feasibility study does state that taxes overall would not go up. Mr. Speaker, I think that there are a couple of other people who want to speak on the bill, and I'm happy to take questions if I come back to the well, or try to address those questions if I come back to the well. Thank you.
Okay, we do have members who have signed up to speak to the bill. We will have 20 minutes of debate for each side. I'm sorry, 30 minutes debate for each side. Chair recognizes Chairman Ed Setzler to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, proud today to stand in support of HB 841. Wanted to kind of expand upon something that Chairman Dollar highlighted to us, that what we've got here before us today is really not an issue of more government. It's really an issue of representative government. And as a citizen that lives in unincorporated Cobb County, myself, my family, my neighbors, the local elected official representation we have is a ratio of one local county commissioner per about 200,000 people. So we think about our cities. You know, there was one of our members of the minority party was talking in our committee meeting, extolling how strong and how well run the legacy cities in Cobb County are. In our legacy cities, Ackworth, Kennesaw, Estelle, Powder Springs, Marietta, Smyrna, many of them have a relationship of about one elected official per about 5,000 people. Unfortunately, if you live in unincorporated Cobb, you have one elected official per about 190 to 200,000 people. So if you have needs that whether it's getting a street paved, whether it's addressing something, getting patrol, whether it's an area being patrolled by police, whether it's a zoning question, you have 200,000 people per one elected official. I mean, I will tell you, it's not critiquing any particular county commissioners, but that level of representation is not what I think we would desire. With the city of East Cobb, citizens who are now in unincorporated Cobb County would go from having 200,000 people per elected representative to having 8,000 people per elected representative. Think about that for a minute. That is a 50 times more concentration. I mean, you have 50 times the representation under East Cobb that you do today. I mean, you've got every elected official has 1/50th of the number of constituents they can commit their time to, follow up on questions with, solve problems for than you can today under a county that's nearly 800,000 people with simply 4 district commissioners. You know, this is something I think we can all be proud of. I think no matter what your political background is, no matter what your favorite issue is greater representation, I think, is something that we recognize as very important. It's something that we all as members, as representatives of our community see as being vital. And I think going from one elected official per 200,000 to one elected official per 8,000 is something we can all be very, very proud of in supporting this bill. Secondly, East Cobb will have about 55 to 56,000 people. There's folks that say, why does East Cobb need to be a city? Why doesn't it just stay as it is? Well, you talk about the size of the city, the size and the scale. Is it big enough to have any substance? Is it big enough to have a collection of people to have their own community of interest that can represent itself with the resources, talent, and abilities and focus to be a credible city? When you think about East Cobb as it's proposed today in HB 841, with about 55 or 56,000 people, the city of East Cobb, when created, if this General Assembly and the voters support that, will be larger than the city of Gainesville. Does the city of Gainesville, Georgia, have the right to exist as a city outside of unincorporated Hall County? The city of East Cobb will be larger in population than the city of Valdosta. Should Valdosta just dissolve into Lowndes County and be unincorporated, or should Valdosta have a right to exist as a city? The city of East Cobb will be larger than Rome. Rome, Georgia, will have a lower population than the city of East Cobb. Statesboro, LaGrange, I could go on. 56,000 people is a concentration of folks that have great talent, have great diversity, and great ability to represent themselves as their own entity, where representative government can be real for people. Not just a phone call where one local representative represents 200,000 people. Lastly, I would tell you that as we have this debate, the committee was listened to. Chairman Dollar talked to members of the community, even those that have been in opposition to his initial proposal, so that what you see before you today is perhaps a different proposal than would have been provided 4 years ago. But through this rigorous process of town hall meetings, taking feedback, engaging people, I just would like to tip my hat to Chairman Dollar for the work and the feedback he's taken from people in putting together the proposal we have before us today. And then lastly, I would say, Mr. Speaker, this is not another layer of government. We passed, this General Assembly in its wisdom back in the Roy Barnes administration passed a bill that prohibited the duplication of services. You can't pay a fire tax to the county and fire tax to a city. You pay it to one or the other. You can't pay both a police tax to the city and a police tax to the county. You pay for one or the other. So when we ended, this General Assembly wisely ended duplication of services about 20 years ago, that issue of another layer of government is simply not true. Friends, this is not only not another layer of government, this bill is fundamentally about representative government. And should 56,000 people, more people than are in Rome, LaGrange, Statesboro, Gainesville, should they have the right to decide for themselves, should they be represented by 6 council members in 3 districts, 2 in each district and a mayor, or should we as a General Assembly tell them just one elected official per 200,000 people is good enough for you, even though I and us, many of our cities, enjoy so much more? With that, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to yield the well. I know there will be some other speakers on this, but I would commit to you HB 841. The city of East Cobb is a great idea. Its time has come, and for that I would ask for your support.
The gentleman has yielded the well. There are those who wish to be heard in opposition to the bill. Chair recognizes Chairman Don Parsons to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Speaker. I've just got some notes here. I don't have a speech prepared. I think I really need to come down and talk about this because this new proposed city is directly to the east of the district that I currently represent. In fact, in earlier drawings or earlier renditions of the district I represent, it's actually going over into that area. But currently, the proposed lines will be just to the east of my district. And I have I've received a lot of correspondence, especially over the last week, in opposition to the city being formed. It's an important day. This is an important day in the history of the county that I live in. I think Cobb County, I don't have the exact date, but I think it was formed around 1830, a long time ago. And there have been cities formed there over the years, but nothing like this particular thing over in East Cobb. The idea has come up before. I think about 20 years ago, I remember some people in fact, close to where I live now in North Central Cobb, which a lot of people there consider themselves East Cobb. The idea was out there, proposed, but it never did gain any traction. And this particular movement has been in force for, I guess, about the last 3 to 4 years, something like that. I remember getting a call from our local newspaper, the Marietta Daily Journal. It was either 3 or 4 years ago, just out of the blue one day. I hadn't heard anything about this, since that earlier movement. I want to know if I supported a city of East Cobb. And it kind of took me by surprise because nobody had mentioned it, like forever since the early. And I told him, I said, I don't know. I would have to talk to, I would have to hear from people about it, but it doesn't seem to make any sense to me. We have Cobb County government. I think that they're doing a good job. I've never had any problem with Cobb County government. I have my commissioner I can go to, and I must say too, in response to something was previously said about the number of Cobb County commissioners. There are a lot more state representatives in Cobb County and state senators than there are commissioners, and we certainly get our share of calls that we have to then go talk to the county commissioner about, but they always have somebody to come to. I can assure you of that. As you all know, people always come to us if they don't know who their county commissioner is. But anyway, it's not easy to even come up here and talk about this because I have so much respect for Representative Chairman Dollar. He's my neighbor down here in the chamber. He's my neighbor has been in the suite that I'm in. And legislatively, like I say, his district is just to the east of my district. And I have a lot of respect for Chairman Dollar, and I know he's spent a lot of time, and I know he's worked on this very hard. With that, I want to make sure that's very clear. I believe it does create a new level of government. I think there's some conservative issues that one has to take in consideration with this. And I've tried to answer emails, correspondence that I received very honestly. There are conservative reasons why you would support a new city like this. closer to the people. That is true. It would be closer to the people. And it does provide a means of self-determination for the people in that area about whether or not they want to do it. I do want to point out that since that conversation with the Marietta Daily Journal, our local paper there in Marietta, like say 3 to 4 years ago, I think it was probably 4 years ago, I have never one time, not one time, heard from that group that is proposing this city of East Cobb. Even though my district is right there, comes up to the area that they have decided, upon themselves. They have taken upon themselves to have this city drawn in the particular city lines that they've come up with. I don't know how they came up with those lines. It makes no sense to me. Way too big. As far as a community of interest, I don't see it. I think East Cobb, for a long time, throughout the county, is looked at somewhat differently because of demographics and business and things of that nature. But that area that large that is drawn into that district is not really a community of interest. It's not like I don't go into what is called, drawn out in the city of East Cobb. I go there every week. And there's nothing that draws it together, I can assure you of that, as a city. One thing I want to mention, and I'd ask Chairman Dollar to think about this if it passes today and as it moves on, really need to consider this referendum date in May. Now, not only have I had correspondence from people opposing the whole project, the whole proposal, but especially about having that referendum in May, because there's so much that has to be done for the elections office to be able to even do that in May. And this thing hasn't even passed. It still has, if it passes here, it still has to go to the other side. So I would definitely ask him to consider that, to move that referendum date out. I guess maybe my final note on this. I'm not I do. I read history a lot. And of course, as Democrats and Republicans, but especially those of us who maybe have a more conservative view of government, Thomas Jefferson is a hero. And sometimes I wonder how somebody who could have written something so flowing and so easy to read as a Declaration of Independence, some of his things that he's written are so difficult to read, but I still try. But something I came across a couple of years ago, he was talking about cities. And Thomas Jefferson wrote this in so many words. He said, our states, our colonies, were formed by Great Britain. The colonies were formed by Great Britain, but the cities were formed by people. He saw cities actually more important in a way because they were formed by people. They come together, they establish a whatever, some kind of place of commerce, a bank, a store. And the city is built around that. And I think that's important. I see that in cities all across the state. I see that in cities in Cobb County. It is a city that was built by the people. This is something that's been proposed by a group of people who want a city and want to be on the city council, and maybe want to be mayor or something for themselves, and want to control all the little aspects, the zoning, maybe be the police chief, all that. That's what this is not a group of people who have come together and built a city or a town. If that were the case, it would be there. There is no town of East Cobb. There is no city of East Cobb waiting to be incorporated. So with that, I think I will stop there. I just think it's a proposal that needs a lot more thought, but especially as far as the date for the referendum. One more thing, and that is that this group that has been behind this, they have now had 3 to 4 years organizing. They have money. They know how to run a campaign. The people who are opposed to this, they don't have any of that. With an election in May, they have the resources, the proponents for this have the resources to get this thing through. The people who are opposed and have various problems with it, they're not organized. So how do you think that's going to go? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Chair recognizes Representative Allen to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be brief because I know others want to speak and time is short, but my concerns with the technical concerns have already been talked about, and they'll be talked about a little bit more. Cobb County as a county has 4 cities that are being addressed in this session. To my knowledge, there is not another situation where a county has had 4 cityhood movements at one time. I would like, and I've asked for it to be delayed, but I would like to, say again, all 4 of these should be put through committee and brought to a vote at the same time. It is extremely chaotic for the county to prepare for the different scenarios and do an impact study. If this passes, if this doesn't, if that one, these two don't. And I'm also worried about making sure that if we're going to stand by what Representative Setzler said about we should let people vote, we should let everybody vote. There are 4 movements. All of them have done a feasibility study. All of them have been introduced. One was even introduced last biennium and is the only one not scheduled for hearing yet. If we are going to allow the residents of Cobb County to vote on building communities, everyone should have that opportunity to vote. So I ask again that we delay this vote so that the other 4 sponsors have an opportunity to have their bills make it all the way through committee, so that if we allow one community of Cobb County to vote on their destiny, we should afford that a right to every single community that's looking for the same thing. And with that, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Anulowicz to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise before you today to speak against HB 841. As most of you know, I love cities. I spent almost a decade on the Smyrna City Council. I am frequently here in this spot to herald the glories of local control. Cities, as the kids say, are my jam. So why then am I here today to speak against this nascent city of East Cobb? Cobb County is home to 6 cities. They're what I have always referred to as legacy cities. They've been around for quite a while, and they offer a complete range of services for their residents. Smyrna, for example, celebrates its sesquicentennial this year. That means 150. Residents in Smyrna pay a little more in taxes than our neighbors in unincorporated Cobb County, but in exchange, we have our own police, fire departments, public works, water, sewer, sanitation, recycling, parks. We even have our own city library. The city has a dedicated city administrator, 7 council members who live in their districts and who are elected by their neighbors who also live in their districts. Marietta and the other 4 cities in Cobb are similarly structured. Now, to be clear, I am not opposed to new cities. In fact, several other cities are proposed in Cobb County right now, and each one merits thorough evaluation. But having witnessed the birth of cities throughout Metro Atlanta in recent years, I do think that a necessary element for any new city's success is that the citizens who vote to create that city do so with their eyes wide open. What I mean is the city created through a process that is utterly transparent, straightforward, has robust resident participation, and does it reflect the findings of the requisite feasibility study? I'll elaborate. When I spoke against this bill when it was in committee week before last, one of my main qualms with the bill was the governance structure. It was unlike any other city in Cobb, in Metro Atlanta, and I'm pretty sure the entire state, in that it had 6 members, all elected at large. 3 would have to live in one of the city's 3 council districts. The other 3 were elected at large, and there was absolutely the possibility that you could have the city of East Cobb represented by a supermajority of 4 council members who all lived on the same cul-de-sac. My friends, that is not a city council. That is a glorified HOA. Since that meeting, thankfully, the governing structure of the city has changed to reflect the confusion and consternation of many in our ranks. That's good. But the fact that such a profound change to the city's structure happened so quickly and with so little input and evaluation from the public, this bill has been very difficult for the public to follow along with at home. With the numerous committee substitutes, all of these changes, this leads me to my current concern, and that is the zeal with which this bill is being rushed to a vote. By rushed, I don't just mean in this chamber. I mean rushed as in this bill would bring the matter of the city of East Cobb to a vote in May, this May. Let's talk about what that means for the residents within the proposed city, those 60,000 souls. It has indeed been 4 years since the cityhood concept was first introduced. But in that time, there have been 2 House bills, 3 maps, 2 feasibility studies, and at least that many changes to the list of city services and proposed governance models. The changes are confusing, and many residents have complained about their haphazard nature. Again, the city of East Cobb includes close to 60,000 people whose lives and pocketbooks will all be impacted by our vote today. They have done their level best to keep up, but if it's been a challenge to keep up here at the Capitol, and it has, it's certainly been even more difficult for those playing along at home. And now the election date is set for the May primary, not the November general election as it was originally set. The proponents have in the bill set the election for a time when in all likelihood and reality, very few people will turn out to vote to change the lives of more than 60,000 people. People need more than a couple of months of education to learn about how this city would work, whether it would work for them, and how it would impact their daily lives. Another concern with this hastiness comes with the context of the Cobb Board of Elections and elections in general. Like so many counties in Georgia, and reflecting the current labor market realities, the Cobb County Election Office has lost a number of key personnel. They are already concerned about completing the normal reapportionment process. They cannot begin to conduct that process until all of our maps are complete. There's the addition of a new voter registration system, which may come with a bit of a learning curve. And to add to this context, the districting that would be necessary to conduct the cityhood referendum in May could potentially be simply too much to put on the Board of Elections. Holding the referendum on the November ballot is the only timing that makes sense for our election officials and for cost efficiency. I'm going to go back to these feasibility studies, both of them, even with 2 of them. The proposed city that we're about to vote on includes several components that aren't included in either study. Of note, it does not account for what it will cost to develop employee retirement plans. We talk a lot about these during the appropriations project. They don't come cheap. This is in line 133. The bill does not account for the costs required to pay, or the feasibility studies, do not account for the costs required to pay for the city attorney, the municipal court judge, the associate judge, the benefits and the salaries they would inevitably require. None of that is included in the feasibility studies. Voters can't decide on whether or not they want to incorporate with their eyes wide open if many major expenditures are completely ignored in this process. Now I'll talk about public safety. Something that caught my eye early in my evaluation of HB 841 was the creation of their own fire department. When I saw this, I was baffled. You see, Cobb County has an ISO 1 rated fire department. That is as good as it gets. They're one of 2 counties in Metro Atlanta that has an ISO rating of 1. They're one of a handful in the state. I do not understand, nor has any supporter of the city been able to articulate why this fire department is necessary. In fact, were the city to exist with this fire department, every property owner in the new city would immediately pay more for their insurance because of this lesser quality fire protection. This fire department would attempt to protect 60,000 people with only 2 fire stations. So if this city were to pass, not only is every resident going to have higher homeowners insurance, they're also going to probably and inevitably soon be taxed to build the 3rd fire station that the city would require to actually protect its residents. It doesn't make sense, and this is a big part of why I cannot support the creation of the city of East Cobb. I am not opposed to new cities at all, but I will emphasize again my belief that residents need to be able to enter into the creation of one with their eyes wide open. The city is being rushed in what I can only interpret as an attempt by its supporters to shield from residents the reality that this city is not ready for a vote, certainly not as soon as May. If the city is ready, if it has indeed been created in a way that is thoughtful and thorough and with adequate time for all of the 60,000 impacted residents to truly understand exactly what it is they are creating, how they will be governed, what it will actually cost, and how their new city will protect their lives and property, by all means, let them vote. But if the city is worthy of the vote, delaying the vote until November, it will still be worthy. Then, in November, it will ensure that all these questions can be answered, and it should pose no problem for its supporters. I yield the well.
Okay, for the final few minutes, Chair recognizes Representative Wilkerson to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to the City of East Cobb bill, House Bill 841. And I think everybody kind of summarized a lot of the concerns that you see, the concern about the election date, the change in governance structure. And I want to first thank the author for working on this and the committee. A lot of work has been done, but unfortunately, by taking that input, they kept changing the bill, and there are conflicts within it, which caused it to not be a very complete bill, and it is going to be confusing for the people that are trying to vote on this. I think we made a good faith effort in committee. We made some suggestions. Those were corrected. There were some errors in the bill. They corrected those. But I think I just want to highlight one concern that has not been talked about, and that is the district lines themselves. If you look at the original bill, and before the feasibility study was done, it was East Cobb Plan 2021. And then if you look at the current boundaries, East Cobb 2022, I'm going to highlight the differences where I've not been able to get an answer as far as if the boundary lines have changed, which I do believe they have to be set in the first year. And I'll list those out for people to look at after they leave. But Fuller's Park 01 has changed. Murdoch 01 has changed. Pope 01 has changed. Roswell 01 has changed. Sioux Mill 01 has changed. And Soap Creek 02 has changed. So just from that alone, I don't know who's voting in the city. I don't know what lines have been agreed to at the feasibility study, but I would ask that we delay this, that we push this back and consider all 4 cities at one time and the impact in Cobb County. Cobb County, home of the Atlanta Braves. Cobb County, home of the Atlanta United. Cobb County, Home Depot, Dobbins. We've done a great job in Cobb County as one united city, and I don't know if we want to change it based on what I consider a rushed bill, but I want to, like I said, I want to thank everybody for working hard on this, and I ask that you vote no today. I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. We have a minority report, and it's being waived off. We also have chairman's time. Are you taking the chairman's time? Chair recognizes the chairman of the committee, Chairman Darlene Taylor, for the chairman's time. 20 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. As chair of the committee that heard this bill, I would like to offer the following. The request for the City of East Cobb has been a 4-year process. The state regulations and obligations have been met. The process included updating and changes as the public voiced their concerns and changes were made. It's been thoroughly vetted in both subcommittee and full committee. It has both Republican and Democrat votes to move this bill forward. It's a good bill. As members stated, it gives the citizens of the East Cobb area the right to vote and decide if they want to be a city. Mr. Speaker, I yield my time to Jan Jones.
Chair recognizes the Speaker Pro Tem for the remainder of the chairman's time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm just going to take a few minutes of it, if that's all right, and then yield my time to another member. I had not planned to speak, but I heard I felt like I was going back to 2004, 2005 on the arguments. We heard all these arguments back when it pertained to Sandy Springs. And I just want to point out a few things. About half of Georgians live in a city now. And over the past, I guess, 15 years, we've created, gosh, it's probably approaching close to 18 or 20 cities now. South Fulton, Peachtree Corners, Tucker, Stonecrest, Milton, Johns Creek, Sandy Springs, and the list goes on. But I just want to mention a few things I heard, like the let everyone vote argument. You know, everyone didn't vote in all those other cities that passed. Some of them in, at the time, Republican-leaning areas and others in Democrat-leaning areas. No different than with an annexation process. People don't vote outside the county when they're, or outside the area that's being annexed. You let those property owners make that decision as to whether they want to go into a city. And that's what these people are just asking, is let us decide. They'll still be Cobb County residents. They'll still pay Cobb County taxes no different than the other cities that were mentioned in Cobb County. I also wanted to mention something about, you know, the whether or not there would be representation throughout the city. I'll point out one of our, I guess it's called a legacy city, Roswell, has over 100,000 people. It's in the top 10, probably 8th or 7th in terms of population, in terms of the 500 cities in Georgia, and they actually don't even have districts. And it's worked beautifully, and people are happy with it. The same is true in Alpharetta. They have 70,000 residents. I represent portions of both those cities. 13th largest city in the state. They just have posts, and it works fine. They've never once in the years I've represented those cities asked to change to go to districts. Folks work it out. And let me assure you, they have much more elected influence than they would if they were unincorporated. You know, there's a little thing about being unincorporated, and this is what really always kind of chapped me when I was unincorporated. I paid taxes like with SPLOST and LOST, and the city's got a population share, but if you're in an unincorporated area, the remainder of the funds get spread across the remainder of the county, whether you're incorporated or not. They actually get to bring some of the taxes home, just no different than the cities that currently exist in Cobb County. To me, this is what America is about, is bringing elected representation closer to the people. To reiterate what Representative Setzler said, you have much more elected influence. I've yet to hear really from anyone in the cities surrounding me that were incorporated that is unhappy with it. I'm sure there are some. Overwhelmingly, the polling is that they're very happy with greater elected influence on the day-to-day things that affect their lives, their quality of life. I just have to mention on retirement plans, at least for the 3 new cities in North Fulton, what a novel thought. They don't have pension plans. They have generous 401k plans, and I would venture to say there are very few governments that if they were being created today would create pension plans, no different than all the corporations who've done away with pension plans. What they do is they empower their employees with money in an account, a 401k, that they can take with them if they go to another police department or another fire department. It's a much more modern way of doing it. No disrespect to the way cities have done it. I realize once you have pension plans in place, you keep them in place. You have a fiduciary duty to those employees, but that's not a problem. With respect to fire departments, our insurance rates went down after we created our own fire department versus having one supplied by a county that was too big. And I'll just mention a little, from a historical perspective, cities used to mean urban. and county used to mean country. But in 4 counties that represent 1/3 of the state's population, that's no longer meaningful. People just want to have more of a sense of community. And you know, I can't imagine East Cobb looking any different than, for example, Johns Creek in North Fulton. People said, it's not a city. It doesn't look like a city. It doesn't look like what a historic city looked like. But let me assure you, they have a sense of community. They have more green space than they ever would have had. They have better fire and police than they ever would have had, because they vote with their feet, with people that represent them and that they know. That's the advantage of this. And I would encourage you to consider, you know, we have a long history of doing this now, a reasonably long history, 15 years. There's a great degree of satisfaction, whether it's in Gwinnett with Peachtree Corners, DeKalb County with Brookhaven and Dunwoody, the ones in Fulton County, including down in South Fulton, the other cities in Stonecrest and DeKalb County. It has been a resounding success, and it doesn't mean in your rural area this is going to break out. It's in these counties that, you know, you could put 50 counties together and their population wouldn't equal Cobb counties. It's too big to call it local government, local influence for a lot of those people. And but I did hear these arguments 15 years ago, and for many of the people who voted against them, later they came back and asked for their own city in their own area. And I supported it. I support regardless of wherever it is in the state, but it's primarily, in fact, I think solely been in those 4 major counties where it's just too big to call it local government. So I encourage you to keep an open mind and let the people vote. Thank you.
That completes, I'm sorry, Chairman Taylor.
I have one more person that wants to speak. I recognize Ed Setzler.
Ladies and gentlemen, Speaker Pro Tem really took the point I was going to make. Chairman Dollar and I were going to wrap. I just appreciate your consideration. Speaker Pro Tem hit the nail on the head. You know, when you've got 8,000 people per representative, that's a better place to be than calling to fix a pothole when you have 200,000 people represented by one local representative. So if you represent an area, our areas we represent are very diverse. I would just ask that as Chairman Dollar closes us out, give the people of East Cobb an opportunity to vote in May so that in November, the citizens can actually pick their elected officials. You know, the thinking behind all this was that there's focus on it now. It's on people's mind. Do I want it? Do we not want it as a city? And then in November, have the highest turnout for a municipal vote perhaps it's ever been, because on a November election ballot when the governor and the United States Senate's being voted on, let the folks then pick their local elected officials who are going to represent them for the years to come. With that being said, much more could be said, but I will leave it to Chairman Dollar, if you would, Chairman, to close us out and make the case why this matters so much to our community.
Chair recognizes Chairman Dollar.
Thank you, Speaker. And just want to wrap up here. I want to thank those that spoke in support. Also, I want to thank Chairman Parsons for standing up and expounding on the benefits of local government, local control, to really self-governance. I'm sorry that he was a little upset that he wasn't more involved in this process. I take responsibility for that, but you know, he wasn't. You know, he wasn't representing the area, and I should have looped him in more, and I take that. But he's also right on his point that, you know, there is no city of East Cobb. Well, there is no city of East Cobb. That's what this is purporting to do. That's what we're trying to do, is create a referendum to create a city. I would tell him that there really wasn't a city of Milton before Milton was created, and there wasn't a city of Johns Creek. There wasn't a city. That's how this works. I also want to thank Representative Newlowitz for standing up and talking about, again, this really special thing of self-governance. And what I would like to ask her is, why do the people of Smyrna deserve that level of governance, and the people I represent not deserve the right to at least decide if they want it? You know, why? Many of y'all represent cities, and y'all love it, and y'all love your cities. Why do the people of Peachtree Corners deserve it and not the people of East Cobb? Do the people of Decatur deserve it and not the people of East Cobb? Do the people of Smyrna deserve it? Do the people of Avondale Estates deserve to have their city, that level of local control, self-determination, and not the people of East Cobb? I'll leave that to each and every member to decide. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I'll yield the will. Thank you.
There's no one else that wants to speak. I do not wish to speak. All right, the previous question has been ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of House Bill 841, the ayes are 98, the nays are 63. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. What purpose does the Minority Caucus Whip, Representative Wilkerson, rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to serve notice that I'm going to ask for reconsideration on the next legislative day.
You have that right, and it will be on the calendar for next Tuesday. What purpose does Chairman Carson rise? Down here.
Mr. Speaker, I move this House agree to the Senate substitute for House Bill 383.
Chairman Carson has moved that this House agree to the Senate substitute to Senate Bill or House Bill 383. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 383 to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 3, Chapter 5 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general authority, duties, and procedure relative to state purchasing.
Chair recognizes Chairman Carson to explain his motion.
Members of the House, this is simply agreeing to a Senate substitute. I'm told this is on your desk. I'm looking at House Bill 383 as approved by the Senate on sine die. Just got cut off in the timing. What this bill has to do with is in regard to the state contracting with various entities. And what this is basically doing is a little bit of cleanup in regard to some technical language. The trade with Israel is a compelling state interest for the state of Georgia, I would argue, and this bill preserves free speech rights for individuals and sole proprietorships. But it also says we as a state are not going to contract, and we're updating their statute to say we are not going to contract with groups that embrace boycott, divestment, and sanctions against the state of Israel. The very similar bill passed this House last year, 150-18, passed the Senate on sine die, 47-2. I just ask for your favorable consideration, and I yield the well, Mr. Speaker.
On the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 383, all those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. What purpose does Representative Becky Evans rise?
Parliamentary inquiry?
State your inquiry.
Yes. Isn't it true that we are stopping business owners in Georgia from deciding who they are and who are not doing business with?
I think that's a matter that addresses itself to the judgment of each and every member of this body. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the gentleman's motion. The ayes are 146, the nays are 9, and this House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 383. Clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions.
Honoring the life and memory of Dr. David Varner, Jr. Honoring the life and memory of Lieutenant General Robert G. Sam Wetzel. Honoring the life and memory of Effie Campbell Bowers. Honoring the life and memory of Judge Cheryl Terry. Honoring the life and memory of Gary Scott Jones. Commending Community Action Network's initiative. Commending the Jamaican Museum and Cultural Center Incorporated, recognizing, commending the Greater East Side Chamber of Commerce. Recognizing, commending Senator Ed Harbison. Commending Thomas Edward Vaughn, the 2021 graduate of Elbert County Comprehensive High School. Commending the University of Georgia 4-H program, Ms. Katie Beth Brewer, Mr. Arch D. Smith, and the 2021-2022 4-H leadership teams, and recognizing February 9th, 2022 as 4-H Day at the State Capitol and for other purposes. That completes the reading of the privilege resolutions.
Is there any objection to adopting the privilege resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. What purpose does Representative DeLoach rise?
To make a motion, Mr. Speaker.
State your motion.
I move that the rules be suspended so that a bill may be read for the first time and assigned to committee.
Gentleman has moved that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee. The clerk will read the caption.
Unnumbered House Bill by Representative DeLoach, the 167th, to be titled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of McIntosh County.
Is there any objection to the gentleman's motion? Hearing none, it is so ordered. Intragovernmental coordination. Okay, we're going on now to announcements. Listen up. If you have an announcement, the House will remain in order for just a couple of more minutes. If you have signed up for an announcement, make your way to the front of the chamber. Chair recognizes Representative Doreen Carter for an announcement.
Thank you, Speaker Ralston. I just wanted to come back to remind you on Thursday, February the 3rd, we are asking everyone to wear red in celebration or in awareness of Go Red for Women, which is actually Friday. But the members of the Georgia General Assembly, we were asking you to wear red on Thursday, and then we were gathered to take a picture with the American Heart Association. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Holland for an announcement.
Members of the Atlanta delegation, we will be having a delegation meeting tomorrow, Friday. It was originally scheduled for 12 o'clock, but for scheduling purposes is being bumped to 1 o'clock. You can expect an updated agenda in your email. The Zoom link will remain the same. Atlanta delegation tomorrow, 1 o'clock. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Dewey McLean for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Working Family Caucus will have a virtual meeting. Your lunches are in room 307, and today's topic will be the amended budget 2022 and the budget 2023. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Gullett for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Governmental Affairs Cityhood Subcommittee will be meeting today at 2:30, room 606. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the Chairman of the House Ethics Committee, Chairman Randy Nix, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to remind the freshmen that we're meeting today with the having our mandatory ethics training, 1 o'clock today in room 216 here in the Capitol. Anyone who was elected in 2020 or came to the House later than that, we need you to come to that meeting. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Beth Moore for an announcement.
Colleagues, you have on your desk the written invitation to our legislator visit to the National Center for Civil and Human Rights. This tour will occur on Monday from 1 to 3 p.m. Everybody in this room is invited, so if you would like to join me, please come and let me know. I can put you on the list. RSVP is not required, but the center has asked for an estimate of a head count. So please let me know if you'd like to join us. They are waiving the entry fee. This is a special private tour just for legislators. Thank you.
All right, that completes our announcements, except, listen up, we will not be in session on Monday. We will be back here on Tuesday, and the majority leader will make a motion about that. That means that the mandatory testing that we normally do on Monday will be done on Tuesday. And we will follow that policy going forward. If we're out on a Monday, testing will be on Tuesday. So keep that in mind for your planning on Tuesday. Okay, listen up. We've got some birthdays, big birthdays coming up. First of all, today is the birthday of Representative Greg Kennard. Happy birthday to Representative Kennard. Tomorrow, don't look away from me. She's ignoring me. Is the birthday of the Speaker Pro Tem, Jan Jones. Happy birthday. And on Saturday, it will be the birthday of the Chairman of the Governmental Affairs Committee, Chairman Darlene Taylor. That completes the business of this House for today and for this week, except for committees. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader of the House for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that this House stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Tuesday, February the 1st, 2022.
The Majority Leader has moved that this House be adjourned until Tuesday, February 1 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it, and this House will be adjourned until